So I've been meaning to cover this. I came across this article from politics.co.uk, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I just didn't have a chance to do it. But this is by a guy called Colin Talbot. But I think this actually does sum up a potential scenario which might actually happen. So here we go. Can Johnson survive his first weeks in number 10? Boris Johnson might be having an easy ride in the Tory leadership contest, but his first few weeks in Downing Street are likely to be very different. Weariness of the former London mayor on the Tory benches and outright hatred on the Labour benches means it'll be a baptism of fire. These are the mechanisms open to those who want to take it hard on him. Day 1. So, assuming he wins, Johnson is expected to be called to the palace and invited to form a government. On the afternoon of Wednesday, the 24th of July, Theresa May will conduct her final PMQs and go straight to the palace to offer her resignation to the Queen. She will also advise her on who to summon to form a government. Before that happens, a golden triangle, in the words of historian Peter Hensley, will have met to advise the monarch on what she should do. It will consist of the Queen's private secretary, Edward Young, the Prime Minister's private secretary, Peter Hill, and the Cabinet Secretary and Head of the Civil Service, Mark Sedwill. There is a chance Johnson will be immediately faced with the loss of his working majority. Some Tory MPs have threatened to resign the whip if he is elected. Some estimate there could be as many as 12 in the hardline rebel faction. So even with DUP support, the majority is gone. If the Queen were advised by either May or the Golden Triangle that Johnson could not command a majority in the House of Commons, there is an immediate crisis. Does she call on Johnson to form a minority government and wait and see what happens? Probably, but not absolutely certainty. It might depend on how many Tory MPs defect, for example. Despite the warnings, this remains an unlikely scenario. The rumours in Westminster suggest that few, if any of them, are prepared to take this drastic action immediately. And even if they do, the instant of the powers that be will be for a smooth transition, so there is more than likely Johnson will be called to form a government anyway. The other one, no confidence. Technically, there is no need for a vote of confidence in the new Prime Minister, and practically everything's been done to avoid one. The Commons rises for the summer recess the day after he becomes PM, leaving almost no time for the opposition to put down a motion under the Fixed Term Parliament Act and get it debated before the break. Labour could try and delay the recess to allow this to happen, and Speaker John Bercow would probably enable it. But so far they've shown little inclination to try and force an immediate vote. On the other possibility is that the Queen makes it a condition that Johnson puts down a motion of confidence in himself immediately to prove that he can command a majority in the House, but that is unlikely. The House of Commons will return for just 1 week at the start of September before going into recess again for another 3 weeks for the party conference season. At this point, Labour could move for a vote of no confidence. Will they try it then? Again, it seems unlikely. It would mean scuppering their party conference to clear the decks for an October general election. And after that, their next chance is October, when Parliament returns, just weeks ahead of the Article 50 deadline. And as you can see, we're wasting all this time on this ridiculous leadership contest. It's decided. Brexit can't happen. Parliament will not do a no deal. Parliament has rejected Theresa May's deal, which is the best deal that they can get. negotiated by two Brexiteers, despite how much they want to say how bad it is. This was negotiated by Brexiteers. Don't forget that. The only option is to revoke Article 50. Because here's the thing, and if you still want Brexit to go ahead, okay, fine. Here's what happens. Article 50 gets cancelled. That removes the ticking clock. What then must happen? Theresa May or Johnson goes and says, okay, Brexiteers, this is your mess, you sort it. You're responsible for coming up with a way Britain can leave the European Union in an orderly and reasonable fashion. Once it's done, we can then have a referendum on it. That is an entirely reasonable proposition to have. So, next part, losing a no confidence vote. Whether it's July, September or October, the consequences of a lost no confidence vote are dramatic. Johnson would have 14 days to go back to the House and get a positive vote of confidence. He could try all sorts of ways to do this. For example, forming some fresh arrangement with other parties. If he was really desperate, he could even offer the SNP a referendum on independence. Who knows? This period is awash with the potential for the monarch to become embroiled in party politics. The wording of the conference motion is, this House has confidence in Her Majesty's government. It is not a possible government, but Her Majesty's government. This implies that either it remains Johnson or someone else who the Queen has already called on to form a government. Theoretically, that means the Queen, in reality the Golden Triangle, could call on someone other than Johnson to form a government before the second vote of confidence. But this would be utterly without precedent, and it is hard to see how it could happen in practice. All the talk about a national government or a minority Labour government taking over is also unlikely. The powers that be would rather let the clock run down to a general election being called automatically after 14 days than risk involving the Queen in such a risky venture. It is hard to know which way things will break, but we can conclude something from the fact that the British political calendar and the Article 50 calendar collide within weeks of each other in that mid-October period. Then the most likely time is for all to hit the fan. November general election, anyone? And the thing is, Johnson may have already given the game away. You may remember in the ITV debate, he said that's how the Prime Minister loses the next general election. So once again, either Boris is being an idiot, or he let slip that he is going to call a general election. And once again, who knows what will happen in that?